Yeah,
Um, okay, then I am bringing in Joe Symes. So Joe, I've also got a slide to show who you are, and it is there. So Joe Symes started progressive education. It's I think it started. Well, she'll share with us now, but as a big as a Facebook group that grew and grew and grew. And I actually am very keen to hear where things are now with the organization. So Joe is chiefly concerned with alternative education, home education being one of those, but and giving people the opportunity to come together and share their ideas on alternative education. So thank you, Joe, for joining us. And if you could perhaps just tell us a little bit about yourself and how you got interested in education alternatives.
Yeah, sure. Hi, thanks for having me today. So I got into all of this just through my own children, really. I have to confess, I hadn't given education much thought at all until I had my own children. I hadn't questioned my own schooling. I just, as you do, you just go to school and get on with it. And I just, yeah, I never questioned it. But my kids didn't get on very well at school. They absolutely hated it. And ironically, we actually relocated for the schools in this particular area of, it was Hertfordshire we moved to for a village that had a high proportion of outstanding schools. And I remember a friend of mine was a head teacher at the time, and she said, "Oh, be careful about choosing an area to move to based on, Ofsted's rating." But we didn't know what we were doing. We didn't have anything else to go on. So that's what we did. And they ended up going to an outstanding school, which actually our local GP, well, she said she'd moved from another town to our village. And she said there was such a high proportion of primary age children with mental health problems. And I think it's down to these outstanding schools that for my two children, that it just wasn't outstanding. Basically, it caused a lot of anxiety and angst. And so, yeah, after 2 years, my older son was there for 2 years, we deregistered and started home educating them both. So they were home educated for about 3 years. We've had it's been a roller coaster. We've tried all sorts. We've done flexi schooling, Montessori, forest school, self-directed, consent-based education, and it's set me on a path of exploring all the alternatives, and I'm very passionate now about sharing those and raising awareness of those so people know what their options are, because obviously mainstream is a one size fits all and it didn't work for us, and I want to help other people who it doesn't suit as well.
Yeah, and we kind of, the thing is that I feel like there are, and I hope you don't mind me chiming in on this, it's just you made me think of it. I feel like we kind of have to define four groups of children for the benefit of the politicians, perhaps. And so I'm talking in terms of children. You've got one group of children where the parents are happy to, where the parents are unable to properly educate their children or provide them with what they need, and for whom school would be a safe space. Where those children, for that group of children, the government should provide a really high standard of education, should give them whatever they need. Then you have a second group of children whose parents would like them to make use of state provision because it works for them. And for that group also, there should be a high standard of provision for them. And you've got a third group where the parents would like options.
Mm.
They would like not to be trapped within just this system or that system, but to actually have options available to them that are all considered on an equal level. And then you have the fourth group of children whose parents are quite happy to take full responsibility and educate them themselves. And unless there's any cause for concern, they should be just left alone. The other group should also just be left alone. Those parents that are kind of got it sorted. The only group they actually really need to worry about is the first one, is the children who absolutely need that state provision.
Mm. Yeah, I
Everyone
think
else
choice.
should really be like, if everything looks okay, then goodbye, get on with your life, happy, off you go. And I think the problem is that sort of the state feels like in every one of those groups there's children that they need to be worried about. And I think um, I don't think that's really the issue. I think there is a specific group they need to be worried about, and yes, they should be worried about that group. But yeah, so how did you, then you, let me just see what we had a little discussion here. You kind of, how did this progressive education, how did that come about?
Um, so yeah, so my oldest son went to school in 2016, and we endured all of that for 2 years. And then when he was in year two and his younger brother was in reception, we deregistered. But quite a lot of people in my life weren't okay with that. They weren't on board with home education. So yeah, I had to compromise. And so I set up a Facebook group. So what happened was I wasn't really on Facebook or social media before this. And I realized very quickly that if you're home educating, you have to be on Facebook. And that's where I learned about Facebook groups. And I was like, oh, this is what I need. Like, I need this elusive, compromised school where my kids can go, where it's going to be more nurturing than mainstream, but it's ticking boxes for people in my family that want the kids in school. So I was like, oh, I know, I'll set up a Facebook group and see if I can find it that way. So that's what I was trying to do, was to try and connect with similar people on a similar journey to find this elusive compromise school that I could settle on for my kids. And so in 2019, I set up the Facebook group, and then it just kind of it grew. I shared it in a few other places for a few weeks or months, and then it just sort of snowballed from there. And yeah, it certainly turned out I wasn't alone. And there are now nearly seven, no, there's 11,000 people in there now, actually. And yeah, lots of parents, carers, and teachers, founders of innovative learning communities and schools,
And
psychologists,
people from all
researchers.
over the world as well.
Yeah, yeah, it's
Because I
global.
know
It's
Gina
mainly
Riley that we
UK,
had on
but
earlier, and Peter Berg,
yeah,
I
she's
think, are
in
in there.
there. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
international, which makes it really, and that's really inspiring because you can see what's happening in other countries. And I'm trying to raise awareness of different things that are happening to inspire change over here. So yeah, the Facebook started in 2019, and then because so much amazing stuff was being shared, like TED Talks and podcasts and blogs and websites and books, I was like, well, we have to get it out further. Not everyone's on Facebook. So then I decided to set up a website, which is progressiveeducation.org, to try and share some of these resources a bit further. So there's a directory of, I guess what I wanted to do was to try and provide a resource that I wish I'd had at the start of the journey. So there's a directory of what I call progressive schools and learning communities, which started as a UK thing, but now it's global. Trying to get the word out about that to say it's now international. So overseas schools and communities can join as well. And there's a list of campaigns for change, because that's the other thing. It's like not everyone's able to take their kids out of the system. Most of them are going to stay there. So I want to raise awareness of those campaigns to bring about change as well. And there's different ways for schools to get involved, and initiatives they can take part in to try and improve the learner experience for the kids that are still in school. What else? Yeah,
But
like a listing of,
you've got your website now, and you've
yes.
got other things going on.
Yep. So last almost a year ago, I launched a membership as well, which is says a quote by Socrates. Oh, I wrote it down earlier, now I can't find it. The secret of change is to focus all of your energy not on fighting the old, but on building the new. So inspired by that, myself and Alex O'Neill, who's the host of the Limitless Changemakers podcast, we've set up a membership for people that want to set up their own schools and learning communities. And so that's like you get a monthly expert webinar. So we bring in founders of innovative learning environments and practitioners of sort of progressive practice, people working with consent-based education, and tips on like how to manage conflict and stuff like that. And then there's coaching as well, and an online community that goes alongside that too.
Yeah, and I think there was a conversation we had earlier today. I think it was with Simon Squibb, and we were talking about how do we get some positive PR and that kind of thing. And the conclusion of that was actually you need to build something better. You build something outside of that. So you show,
Yeah.
just kind of like ignore that and do something really positive. That's what I got out of it. I didn't write it down, so I might be getting it a little wrong. But
Yeah, I think
yeah, you promote the positive.
that
Um,
resonates with me
yeah.
as well. It's like we've done enough of moaning about the system, and I had to change something on my website because I have to say I was on a bit of a rant when I created this website. We were coming out of quite a traumatic period, so I did have a section on there that said 15 reasons for dissatisfaction with the school system, and I've changed it now. It's 15 ways to reimagine education. So I'm trying to put more of a positive spin on it. I think we're all
Yeah,
sick and tired of moaning. Let's talk about the solutions now. And I think
yeah,
that's much more empowering and inspiring. That's what's going to bring about the change. Yeah. And if we can show that another way is possible, and I'm hoping through this membership, we can help these new learning communities to thrive. And then eventually, when there's enough of them, do some research to show the outcomes of what happens when young people have a different kind of education.
yeah. And you've also got a course coming soon, I believe.
Yes, that's work in progress. That's probably going to launch in the spring next year. So that'll be an online work at your own pace, downloadable course, all about different approaches to education for anyone who maybe doesn't know what kind of education they want for their children, maybe they haven't decided yet, or for those that are disillusioned with the system already,
Or
and
maybe
for
some local
educators too.
authorities.
Yeah, well, if that would be amazing, wouldn't it? To, if we could get politicians involved and to learn as well. That's absolutely the aim as well, to
Yeah,
bring about change.
yeah. And obviously, I think we don't want to get into too much on the children's wellbeing and schools bill, but obviously there are some concerns because we know that that bill is going to look at education providers, and a lot of your members are education providers and alternative
Yes.
provisions. So there's the guidance for that. And I know you've had to try and help them get the information they need and try and figure it out yourself.
Yeah,
Just
it's
as
so
we and
worrying.
trying to keep up with it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's so complicated, and a lot of the stuff in the in the bill is hidden. So a lot of it wasn't written on the face of the bill. It was like in some other document that most people would
Yes,
never
that's right.
find. And there's
That's right.
some. Been on a big learning curve. There's something called a Henry VIII law, where
Yes,
the
yes,
Secretary of State can decide something like 2 years after the bill. Yeah, 2 years after it's been made law, they can then tinker with it or something
yes.
and
So
change it.
Michelle's probably the expert on that, I suppose. I hope. Michelle, you want to hop in?
I'm sure they can explain
Yeah.
it better than me.
I wasn't fully listening at the
Okay.
time.
We just
My son
okay.
had just come in.
We were just talking about like some of the hidden things about the bill.
Yeah,
Um,
the Henry
There's
VIII
so
law.
much hidden,
yeah,
so we're not gonna. Most of it we won't know for a long time. So the bill effectively just has the framework. It's like the tent without canvas, basically. So you've got your tent poles up, but you've got no canvas.
and there's
We
also
find out the canvas later on. So at the moment, you don't know if the amount of hours your
Hmm.
settings setting will actually come under some of the rules, whether you'll be
Yeah.
captured, and if you are captured, to what level you'll be captured, and which bits will fall on you. So it's one of these ones where if you are planning on opening in the next, say, 2, 3 years, at this moment in time, it'd be very hard to plan your business plan because you may or may not be in scope. This part of your business may or may not be in scope, and that bit may or may not. You may have extra reporting duties, but then again, you may not,
and in three
depending on
years
what
you
they
may
put
or
in the
may not have a
regulations that are coming
business.
in the future. So it is, yeah, it's one of these bits where normally you'd have more detail so you could work
Yeah,
from it, but they've sort of like put your tent poles up and you need to go and get your canvas to cover the tent
yeah.
at a later stage.
And our
Um,
concern is that some of the requirements would cause people to close down those provisions, and they wouldn't be accessible to home educators and so on anymore. And it's very very unpleasant, and
yeah.
it's impacting a lot of people, um,
Well,
and we
their
don't
own
know which way
accompanying
it's going to go. Yeah.
documents,
Yes,
their own
that's right.
accompanying documents say the level of scope it could have, but then
Yeah.
very quickly tells you, but it won't. We're going to sort that out by regulations. So
Yes.
technically, if the bill had no regulations and was just the wording of the bill, there is a potential that a child who is on a school roll, but not a but then attends a swimming lesson with no teachers from the school, which a lot of swimming lessons off-site may not have teachers, for a certain period of time, could potentially, as written only in the bill without any regulations guidance, we know there's going to be regulations guidance, but if you had nothing else, be in scope of this at the moment. And that's in their accompanying documents. That's one of their own examples in their accompanying documents. They then go on to say, however, of course, we're going to then tell you what we actually mean in the regulations or in the guidance.
Mm.
So we know that that's not their favourite term. It's not the government's intention, but But even they recognise, and a lot of their stuff they don't recognise in their documents, even they recognise in their own documents, how it's written at the moment, it could potentially be interpreted to that level. Which obviously, if you're setting up a business, that's just not workable, because
No.
you really can't sort of gauge how much bureaucracy you're going to be subjected to.
And you may not have a business in 3 years is also the thing.
Absolutely.
And also there's other supporting documents that they don't really mention, and when you go and dig them out, they're pretty horrific to look at in terms of what they're basing some of these things on, some of the German rulings and things like that. Okay, so Joe, any last words for people thinking about alternative provision or other settings?
Yeah, go to my website,
Yes.
progressiveeducation.org.
And they will they will stay informed then by
Yes,
joining
and,
them.
and they're welcome to join the Facebook group as well, which is just called Progressive Education Group.